what's happening. You already see what's taking place, you heard? Chef mode, you hear me? Chef mode. Just getting it right real quick, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna get right to it. But of course, let me get something right and exact over here real quick. Give me a second. Let's see something here. Yeah, pardon me. Be back in effect. Just give me a moment. I'm gonna let you know what's on the menu. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so just to let you know what's on the menu, and of course, I'm using the ground turkey. The brand I prefer is the Shady Brook Farms. So when it comes to the ground turkey, I prefer that Shady Brook Farms, that quality, you know, quality turkey. Ground turkey, that is. Ground turkey. That's going to do a great justice for your gains. You know what I'm saying? That muscle mass and all that. Like I've mentioned many a times, I eat a lot of ground turkey. So while I'm getting these dishes, rub that fire up. Like I said before, I start that thing on high. And then when you add your food to the pan, then you lower that temperature, you know. So we letting that pan get nice and hot. Yeah. Letting that pan get nice and hot. And we all know when it comes to cooking, your surroundings have to be nice and clear. Everything has to be organized and easy access to your ingredients of such. And I got a nice big pan. Because this is the big package. This is the 48 ounce. 48 ounces of ground turkey. Fire. Absolute fire. Alright, so we pretty good on the dishes now. Bet. That pan is nice and hot. Let me get my knife. Pry open that packet. So what I'm gonna do different tonight. Alright, so when we talk, I'm gonna show you what I'm doing different. Open up that packet like so. Drop it in that pot with ease. And then once we do that, like I said, you turn that fire down. So you start off with that pan nice and hot. Once you add the meat to the pan, you turn that fire down. Salute. See them lights going up. Much gratitude. Rislani, what's up? What's the deal? Yes, we here. But of course, yes, we in the building. Yeah, I'm good. How you? Everything good? Glad to see you in the building. We getting to it. So I want to share with y'all. So I'm making chili tonight. So initially, what I did was, and what I usually use is the 30% low sodium McCormick seasoning. All right? Now hear me out. What I've had in my cabinet is the chili powder. So, got the McCormick chili powder, then I got the chili powder, it's the ShopRite. Now, it's a big difference between the two. This McCormick pack has 220 milligrams of sodium. And this chili powder has only 10 milligrams. So, what I'm going to do a little different tonight, I'm going to go without the McCormick. Alright? I'm going to go without that. I'm going to go with the lower sodium with the ShopRite chili powder. Right? Now, how I make my chili, not sure how others prepare theirs. Now, I use tomato sauce. And that's how I've known to make it. And this has been my approach just off of the whim, you know. One thing for sure, I knew to indeed incorporate that chili powder. So let me crank up that fire just a little bit. I don't want to take too long with that meat cooking, but I use the tomato sauce. Speaking about the sodium, the tomato sauce has over 400 milligrams of sodium. So this is the thing, right? I'm gonna mention this, right? Because we know the effects of salt, right? It's not necessary. It's not a bad thing, but of course, too much of it bring about complications, high blood pressure, right? But anyway, I just wanted to expound on that a little bit. Now, one thing is that when I prepare my actual dish to eat my food, it's not going to be salty and to where I could taste an overbearing effect of salt. But I just wanted to point that out because by me not taking the route of the McCormick pack, it is, I'm doing, basically what I'm saying is that what I'm able to do in terms of minimizing some salt, that's basically what I'm going to do. But I'm not trying to really go crazy to where it's like, yo, and, you know, be all caught up in overdoing it salt-wise. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to point that out, being that I did mention about the difference between the amount of salt in the McCormick and the chili pack. Now, the beans, what I do is, and I use the dark red kidney beans for my chili. So, when I add the beans into the meal, what I do is I rinse the beans off. So the juice that's in the can, I try to get as rid as much as I can and just add the beans in the sauce. And that's really my approach to making this chili, but it's delicious. And I also want to make mention again, the ground turkey that I'm using is the Shady Brook Farms, which is quality. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely like that brand. You know what I'm saying? I definitely do. And I'm going to add a little adobo for the season again. Because I represent health and fitness, the ingredients definitely there are definitely better options, right? So I'm going to admit that. But right now, I'm going to do what I like to do, because with exercising our choices, even with representing health and fitness, I still have my certain choices that I tend to, favor, and it is what it is now. My next go around will be me finding other or better ingredients, if you will. But I tell you one thing for sure. What I'm preparing is a home run hitter. Believe that. I does this. Yeah. Now, I don't eat no pork. Word, stay away, you heard? You giving wisdom to those on whom seeking knowledge. What's up, FBA? What's happening? Nah, no pork on that fork. You already know the deal. Not at all. But I just, I wanted to speak a little bit about the sodium aspect of that, what have you. So, like I said, when I'm, of course, and that the thing is too, when you preparing your meals and you portioning off, the size that you're consuming, that in itself is divvying out the amount of salt you could consuming. So I'm not here on the salt bash, but I'm gonna tell you this one thing for sure. It's so much that I don't do outside of when it comes to these type of ingredients, in terms of bags of chips and just the extra indulgence of the things that throughout one's day will increase the amount of salt or whatever, or even sugar. You know what I'm saying? So I fell back from even the minimum snacking. I've been doing that. Don't get me wrong. I have a pint of Haagen-Dazs strawberry. Now I only eat a very small portion. Actually, this is the cup. This is the very cup that I use for my ice cream. And I don't fill it up to the top. I just put enough to where I get about at least the minimum. A good 6 scoops, you know what I'm saying, of the ice cream. Take my time and to curb the sweet tooth and enjoy a little bit. But it gotta be the Haagen-Dazs. So I'm gonna add some basil. I'm gonna add some oregano. I like the onions in mine, so the choice of onions that I prefer, I use a lot, is the Vidalia onions, the sweet onions. I like the Vidalia onions. I really like these. Yeah. Can't trust anything these days. If anything stick with the fish, Rislani, nah, bro. Chicken is one of the filthiest animals. I hear you. But I'm gonna tell you something. Speaking of chicken and me personally, now when it comes to chicken, and you made a good point, FBA, pardon me, FBA. But I tell you this though, me personally, I ain't letting up on the protein. Chicken and the fish, it's gonna be a part of the diet until something really pushes me away. But I'm gonna tell you this though. There was a point in my life for about a good 7 years, 7, 8 years, or pushing on the verge of 8 years, that I ate no beef. And then I started back like around the time when when we was on quarantine and all that. And speaking about not eating beef, I'm gonna share something that I've said in the past. So when I was up north, right, I was in the box, right? So I was in the SHU. And at that time, the dude that was my bunkie, he didn't eat the red meat. So anytime they served the tray with the red meat, and so they had like the chili con corn, even like the turkey tetrazzini. I'm just naming, these are the meals that they had up north, you know what I'm saying, when I was jammed up, right? So anyway, any of those trays that served the meat, he would pass up on it. He would let me, you know what I'm saying, take those dishes. You know what I'm saying? So what really grabbed my attention at that time is that more so of the circumstance, right? We were being in the box. Of course, now you don't have access to privileges as such as packages and anything other than what they're serving you under those conditions. So he also mentioned that at that time, at least, he already had 10 years of not eating meat. He had a lot of time too, during that time. So I thought it was very interesting how somebody could stand firm in what it is that they was willing to go without, even under conditions where we were already deprived, not of not having food at all, but not being able to eat past a certain time. So when I was up north, I was in the box. I think that the last meal was served at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you had like, breakfast was very early in the morning, like 6:30, 7 the latest. Then lunch was at like 11:30 or whatever the case. You can't see a clock, but you know. And then dinner, those hours were served like around 3:30, 4 o'clock. Like probably not even 4:30. So you figure your last meal being at, let's just keep it at 4 o'clock, all the way until 7 the next morning, you hungry. So for that individual to stand firm on what it is that he would go without until that time of the next meal, and if they served meat, he still wouldn't partake. So, for example, if they at that time served the chili con corn, what he did do was, because the chili would be on top of the white rice. So I would take the chili off top of the rice, and he'll just eat the rice. But there was a guy next in the cell next to us who would receive a kosher tray. And the only time that I didn't get the trays he didn't eat was when he traded it off to the dude next door for like the peanut butter and jelly and whatever came on the kosher meal. The kosher meals up north didn't have a lot of red meat or whatever. I don't know exactly what was on that kosher menu, but he did trade off some of those meals for the kosher. I'm just sharing that with you because what even made me consider not eating meat was something that I witnessed in real life in terms of somebody, again, under those conditions that stood firm with such a level of discipline and commitment and being limited under said conditions and still was true to himself. That's just one, okay? And what I noticed is, and he still had his weight up, okay? So that's something that stood out to me. So I have to share this because I didn't read a book at that time. That it wasn't anything other than that really raised my interest and wanted me to take such a disciplined route, or made me really further take heed to the importance of diet, if you will. Okay? So I just wanted to mention that. And I'll give you one more story, right? Again, this is just what I was unfamiliar with in terms of that level of discipline when it came to people that I actually took the time out to observe, right? Let me give you another one. Give me a second. So then I'm gonna hit you with another story, right? You can't. Oh, okay. So anyway, I'm gonna hit you with another story, right? Again, up north. Now this was after I got out the box, back in population, whatever the case, and individual, I worked out with every so often. You know what I'm saying? And what I noticed when going to the mess hall, most of the time, he just would pass up on all his trays. And again, that same topic came up. He first of all, he was one of those individuals where he didn't like eat the state food. Okay, you got people like that up north. If you're money up and you have the means to where, your supply of food outside of what the state provides, you could live up there and not eat out the mess hall. From packages to commissary and what have you. You got all kind of different ingredients, if you will. But anyway, this individual, another person, weighed up, brolic. And then without me knowing and him bringing it up, the topic, because I asked him, I said, damn, you don't, eat whatever. He like, nah, bro, I don't. Said he don't eat red meat. So I asked him, said, how long have you not, partaken eating meat? And his answer was 13 years that he didn't, eat meat, right? So now that further, this is second person that I'm meeting that's like, hold on, this. So it always, stood in my mind. And it wasn't until, I come back, I come home and it's, I still was very, caught up on what I learned about not, because I didn't eat pork, but to not eat beef or whatever, so I still was like, hold on. Then I eventually made my own decision, and I stood with it for, like I said, about 7, just probably barely making it to 8, sort of but I went years without eating beef, for sure. But even now, I don't consume beef often. Besides now, I do, it's a Jamaican restaurant that's not far from my job. And I'll stop there and get the beef patty. But as far as like a steak, or when I make spaghetti, anything like the chili now is ground turkey. So even though I, decided to partake back with the beef, I still rarely indulge. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that again. And I didn't read a book. I wasn't inspired by social media or anything like that. It was, again, individuals under conditions to where your food source is already limited. And to be so strict, if you will, or to be committed. And that is what definitely put me in a mindset to want to challenge myself, and again, to still see an individual in great shape, glowing, and it's just a prime example that you can do without certain things, and especially fitness wise, you know, excuse me, muscle mass wise. So that was very interesting to me, to where, you know, I then made that decision for me. So just gave you a story on that, you know what I'm saying? And there's so many people even to this day to where, you know, um, their way of life, you know, can have an impact on you, and you make a change that you never thought that you would make. You know what I'm saying? It happens like that. So now I'm about to cut the onion. I'm about to add the onion, because the meat, it cooks fairly quick. It cooks quick, that turkey. So it's still, it's a little reddish. And you see I got it in this big pan here. If you can see, look at that steam coming off of it. It's cooking real well. The juices is in there. I'm telling you, I know it does this. It does this. So what I'm gonna do is add the onion. I'm gonna add that. What time is it? Because I'm gonna tell you what I also um, eat my chili with. So we're gonna add these onions, y'all. So while I'm on this live, I still got time. What I will do is, because what I like with my chili, to complete the dish, like to put a little cheese on top. I put sour cream on mine, and also the corn chips. Listen, not a health fanatic, or extremist, I should say. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, these things that I'm mentioning can be frowned upon by some. It's not my concern. When it comes to that chili, if you haven't tried what I'm sharing with you with the sour cream and them corn chips, fire. Fire. And the thing is, even with that, I don't overdo it. I'm not putting 2 tablespoons, mad cheese. I'm not. I'm not putting corn chips all over the surface of the chili. Nah, you know what I'm saying? I just add what I, you know, just for that little extra, you know, that pop, that spunk, that, but it's fire, I'm telling you. Now we added the onion, right? So, what I want to say is too, and I keep the fire low, because I don't want the meat to dry out. And that's when I'll add the chili powder. You know what I'm saying? Now it's more fully cooked. Added the onions. Still holding a lot of moisture in the pan. And that's when I'll add the chili powder. You know what I'm saying? So you sprinkle some on top. Then you mix that in. Sprinkle a little on the top because you want the seasoning to be nice and even inside the meal. And I can smell that chili. I can smell that. It's fire. And then speaking of red meat again, so when I injured my arm because I lost so much blood, and during that time in the hospital, due to the amount of blood that I lost, they offered me on 4 different occasions for a blood transfusion. And I denied it. At that time, I wasn't eating red meat. So I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks due to them waiting for my blood levels to get back at a point to where I had enough blood in my body. And I was encouraged to eat a lot of foods with vitamin K to avoid blood clots and things of that nature. And I'm sharing that because during that time, even being faced with such a serious issue, I still refrained from the red meat, which probably would have helped out more with iron, because iron is in red meat, and besides spinach and different vegetables that would have help with the blood, the proper blood count or whatever the case may be. But yeah, even during that time, I still refrain from the red meat or what have you. So you got to stand for something. You got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to your guns. I'm not saying that we make the best choices, but you got to stand for something, especially when it comes to your health. I'm not here to tell somebody what they should and shouldn't do, because when it comes to health, it's a very serious matter. You know what I'm saying? If you're not a doctor, a physician, or some form of professional, whatever the case may be, advice is very, it's just a serious matter. Straight like that. So yeah. Nah, I'm not trying to fist fight the kitchen. I'm just simply cooking, But I definitely have an aura, the way I move, the way I walk, the way I talk, having a militant vibe. I've always had that. It definitely draws the wrong attention a lot of times, since you made that comment, which I'm not offended by, but it is what it is. And to be quite honest, and that's why, for me, a person like me, when going about my life in itself is, I take my own initiative to, that's why I give people their distance. That's why I keep, people at bay to a degree, because I definitely got a vibe where I'm not just going for anything. And what I mean is, if you know, and people could dissect authentic individuals, when this just really no games being played, and this ain't no macho talk, none of that, and one thing for sure, and those who are familiar with the energy I bring forth on this channel, never on no Tuck Tony nonsense. I don't get into the war stories. I may share something, a little something on my background. And, I definitely could share some things, but I'd rather not. It's not necessary, So I just want to share that too. I like to have a healthy energy exchange with those. You dig? So if you aren't familiar with how we operate over on 7 Fitness, I'm just letting you know right now, this is about the shadow work, the individual doing what it is that builds oneself as an individual, first and foremost, with the very things that bring about elevation, if you will. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's, yeah, on that type of time. So, But yeah, you know that's how I like to move. You hear me? You heard? You know, I'm not the one to come forth to try to convince, try to impress. No, none of that. Is just simply showing and proving by way of me proving to myself and to be able to share with you all. This is first and foremost what it is that you know you need for you to take you to that next level in character, attitude, focus, energy. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Doors will open. You'll meet decent people. Your network, your networking will expand. Things of that nature. Come on now. Alright, so let me turn this fire up a little more and get this. Yeah. So in the meantime, what I'll do is let me get this can opener. So we're gonna rinse off these beans, right? And you know, when you get canned goods from the store, I think we all should know you wash the top. Always rinse off that top, you heard? Like I said, when you get them canned goods, always rinse off your top. So now the taste test. Yeah, that's hitting, y'all. Oh, that's hitting. Wow. Damn, I'm surprising myself here. That's hitting. Yeah. I ain't gonna overdo it. I'm gonna put a little more chili powder because once I put that sauce in there, I don't want it to take away from that chili flavor, so I'm gonna put a little more chili powder in there. That's hitting. It's hitting. Wow. I think I'm on to something, y'all. That's hitting. All right, that's it right there. Wow. So that's enough with that seasoning. So before I add the sauce, I'm just gonna let that cook a little more. I'm gonna let that marinate. I'm gonna let that marinate. The onions are soft now. Damn. Come on now, check me out. Thing brown, I mean, you can't really, yeah, I'm telling you. Trust me. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. So like I said, I rinse off the beans. All the juices that's inside the can, I rinse that out. I get it all out. As much as I can. Nah, I'll feed you later. I'm gonna feed you later. I'm gonna feed you later. So you can, tilt that can on your hand like so. If you can't see it, let me show you. Just flip that thing over like that. And then rinse your hand off in the process. Let that water get up in there again. Re-rinse. You see what I'm saying? Re-rinse that thing like that. Re-rinse. Because I just want the beans. I don't want the juice inside of it. And that will reduce the sodium from the beans. You see what I'm saying? Move. Gotta do it this way. Because if not, you'd be sitting here rinsing forever. The coast is clear. Alright, now we add those beans after we add the sauce though. Get all them juices out the beans, y'all. Because them beans is, those are 360 milligrams of sodium. So you get rid of them bean sauce. That's how you do it. So after I went live earlier, we did the 400 diamonds. My aim was for 500. I was unsuccessful. Definitely made that 400 rep mark, and believe it or not, after I finished that live, I headed over to the gym and got a second workout in for about another 45 minutes. I did some light bench pressing. I did some lat pull downs. I did some tricep extensions. And I hit my midsection. I did some sit-ups. Alright, the coast is clear on these. We good. And those beans are free from the juice. Huss. Simon, what's happening? Chili tonight. Yeah. So the coast is clear on the beans. Let's mix this up again. The moisture in the pan is holding up very well. Very well. You know, you take your time, you know, you get into your chef spirit, get into that mode of just making sure that it's just right. And I definitely I surprised myself tonight with this chili powder. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to taste that again. That is hitting. Wow. Wow. And this is how you want it, because again, like I said, when it comes to the cooking, the temperature is a big deal. Now, if I had the fire too high, now I would dry out the meat. You see what I'm saying? So it's still very tender. You know what I'm saying? And all that. So I'm gonna have to try that again. Wow. It's fire. This right here gonna let me know the real deal. Yeah. I might be pushing it, y'all, with the I'm gonna put before I add that sauce, I'm gonna give it, like I said, a little more chili powder, because I don't want the sauce to take away from the flavor and override the chili flavor. And it, you know, so just a tad. That's it. That's it. That's done. Enough of that. Enough of that. So I'm going to let that marinate. Put just a smidgen of this, a little one more dough, but just a smidgy. Gotta have an eye, and that's it. That's it. Believe me, the sprinkles are very light that I'm adding to that seasoning, y'all. It's a little more oregano, just a little. I just want to put the final touches before I add that sauce. And I'm going to leave it alone after this, y'all. Leave it alone after this. The basil, That's it. Leave it alone, mix it, let it marinate. Let it marinate. Fire. Get. Let that cook up a little more, let that marinate. Give it that final taste test. You don't need no more nothing. I'm gonna add the sauce, add the beans, let that heat up. Ready to serve. Just like that. Just like that. Fire. Fire. So what I want to do now, going forward, I want to just sort of prepare bigger meals so that it'll help me save from spending money for lunch. All right? And there's a channel on YouTube that I watch in terms of finance or what have you, and the gentleman made mention that at the top of the list of people's worst spending habits is eating out. Or, you know, when it comes to buying lunch and things of that nature. And so, speaking of that, there's a store that I frequent in terms of lunch. And the last time I was there, the woman, she had like an attitude, and I asked for one thing, changed my mind. So when she was re-preparing the container of, so she was transferring the things I wanted and separating what I decided that I didn't want, and my plantains had, she was doing it on the counter that was closer to the register and not even on the counter where the food is prepped, you know, where the hot pans are at and all that. So anyway, I noticed that a couple of plantains hit the counter, and she just grabbed it with her hand and like sort of aggressively threw it in the new container or whatever. I peeped that though, because I'm looking through the plexiglass and I could see right through the plexiglass. And that's not the first time that she kind of had like an attitude. Anyway, I'm not tripping. You know what I mean? Like, I had to let her know, like, yo, you bugging right now. But there's a gentleman, he's the actual owner of the store. He seems to be a nice guy, always very respectful, pleasant, great demeanor, and I was just letting him know, I'm like, what's her problem? Whatever the case may be. With that being said, that's the last time I spend my money in that store on the food. I went in there the next day because I brought me a sandwich from home, and I wanted I went back to that store because they do, it's in the hood anyway, but they have, their prices are reasonable. So anyway, food wise or whatever, yo, that was just an indication for me that fall back and do my own thing. And this is why it's so important that when you could cook for yourself and you could really throw down in the kitchen, at least for me, that's less of me patronizing a restaurant, a business that doesn't have good energy in dealing with my food. So I'm just sharing that, you feel me? And that's why what I'm doing now, I could bring my lunch tomorrow. I'm going to be Gucci. And I'm going to keep my money in my pocket. You see? Alright, so we let this, alright, so before this meat, I don't want it to get dry. So, now we at that point where we really got to put that sauce in, you heard? So let's do that. We at the final stage, y'all. The final stage. Shit. Flip that jar over, let that sauce, the remaining sauce hit the bottom of that. You heard? Ah, just like that. Cap that off. Add your beans. Fire. Fire. Fire, y'all. And that's my homemade chili. I'm gonna let that heat up. Let that sauce, let everything, the seasonings, everything just marinate. You know, let everything intertwine. On that type of time. But yeah, y'all, that's what it is tonight. It was chilly. I appreciate all y'all came forth as you do. Indeed, appreciate you. I appreciate y'all saw those, you know, showing that support with that, hitting that like button if you chose to subscribe. Much gratitude in advance. Alright? Yeah. And that's how we do that. The night is still fairly young. Once I cut off this live, I'm gonna head to my nearest grocer or the store, but the grocery, the supermarket, get my my sour cream, get those corn chips to put on top of that. You know? Yeah, on that type of time. Indeed. So, you know, today was a beautiful day. Doing what was needed in terms of getting the workout and have a beautiful dish to partake in. Yes. Yeah, so in the meantime, I'm gonna start to get this kitchen back the way it should be. Gotta clean up, right? Gotta stay refined. Yo, bro, do you ever box? I did not much, because I ain't gonna make it out, but when I was young, very, very young, I was in the boxing class. But what I do is, I hit that bag every now and then. I definitely hit that bag every now and then. I'm glad you mentioned that, because when we're talking about mobility and utilizing your arms, your body, that movement, you never know if you just might have to. But yeah, nah, chill. But yeah, you know what I mean. I definitely hit the bag. I hit the jump rope. So I do exercises that definitely are in a boxing training fashion. You know, I do side to sides. You know, I'm again hitting the bag. You know, I'm bobbing and weaving. I'm doing these movements. You know, because this is what keeps us on our square firm, right? To be able to maneuver, to, you know, your equilibrium, your peripheral, to be able to, you know, with agility and your accuracy in terms of something unexpectedly coming your way. You understand what I'm saying? So definitely, in the sense of, you know, exercising or training in a boxing fashion, I incorporate that in my training. You know, for sure. Yo, Fresh was good. It is a chilly night. It is a chilly night. When you said it's chilly tonight, were you talking about the outside weather? I'm talking about the dinner menu, Simon. Yeah, it's chilly tonight. Speaking of chilly, because y'all came in alive after I had showed the type of ingredients. It's the ground turkey, the Shady Brook brand ground turkey. And it's definitely chilly outside though. It's cold out there now. That's without a doubt. And when you got that sauce in there, I can't find the top to that pot, so you want to turn that fire down just enough to keep it nice and hot. And I don't want that sauce staining the stove and all that. Whoa. I gotta maneuver around the tripod. The kitchen is small, obviously. Peep House Chef Sev is using a wooden spoon, not plastic. Facts. Facts. Great observation. Great observation. Earth. Whoa, whoa. And as I mentioned before, my choice of juice is the Simplies, y'all. Rock out with that Simplies. I got grape, I got strawberry, I got the mango. I love the peach, the pineapple. It's not from concentrate. Still got a high sugar count. It's all good. But I prefer this over any of those other drinks. Another one that's fire too, how can I forget? They got the apple cider. Simplies. Fire. It got that debris. You got to shake it up real well. The apple one. And speaking of chili, right? Speaking of chili, this is that's a winter meal. I didn't even cook the rice yet. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even cook the rice yet. It's a winter meal. And so, what I'll do with that is, I'm gonna let that keep that on let me keep the heat on that for like another 20 minutes or so. I'm just gonna let that heat just marinate. And yeah, so again, it was chilly tonight. Yo, it's fire. But I'm gonna have to head out after I finish straightening up this kitchen or whatever. Not much to do here. It's pretty tidy for the most part. You already know. Chef mode tonight. Went live earlier. 400 diamond push-ups. I did what? 40 sets of 10. So, as I've mentioned before, if you don't have a high rep count, you have to increase your set count in order for you to get that high rep count, if you will. Huss. Yo, I appreciate y'all for showing up. We shall return. Indeed. Catch you on the next go around. Peace.